So I've talked about this bowl season, of course, previewing it and everything, and also talking about the upcoming 12-team playoff expansion next year. But if there's one thing that does always irritate me about the bowl season, and I've always been a fan of this. I don't know why I became a fan, but it's something that I really look at most of the time and really look forward to when it comes to these bowl games, and that's basically to see how far, how much, and how willing these stadiums, and the sponsors and the bowl game officials themselves, how far they're willing to go to really present the game that these schools are in as a big deal. I mean, you have places like ESPN and Fox and CBS and so on coming out and basically saying, how special these games are for these athletes, for these students. And they're not wrong in that. These are special moments because despite what other people may say, I mean, one guy on ESPN about a couple of days ago, it was, I think, a pregame or halftime of one of the earlier bowl games, came out, and he has a right to his opinion, but he came out and said that basically these games were exhibition, falling in line almost to people saying these are meaningless games. But here's the thing. These games are not meaningless, and they're not exhibition. They're still part of they're still part of the official college football season of that year. And what these bowl games really are, despite how minuscule they might be to some, these bowl games are rewards. These are rewards for the schools, and their teams for how hard they've played, or in some cases lately, how far they've come academic-wise. Even if they have a 5-7 record like Minnesota did, if there's no other teams to put in a bowl game, and academic-wise, Minnesota might have had the biggest improvement, why not reward them? So, to me, it kind of bothers me a little bit when I hear people say that. But what also bothers me, like I said, is, how far a lot of these stadiums, a lot of these bowl games and sponsors are willing to go to present the game as a big deal. I mean, right now I'm watching the Sun Bowl, the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl between Notre Dame and Oregon State. And what gets me about, the Sun Bowl here is that there are some times that the Sun Bowl won't even, well, I'll put it this way. They will put effort. They are probably one of the few minuscule, if you will, bowl games out there, pre-New Year's Day bowl games out there that will at least put effort. They will put effort. They'll put the logo and the sponsors on the field. The logo in the middle of the field, the sponsors, like at the 20-yard, 30-yard line, on both sides of the field, and so on. And sometimes they will put the name of the school. But there have been other times to where they'll do everything I just mentioned, but in the end zones, instead of putting the names of the school, they'll just decide to go and just put El Paso, Texas, and that's it, or El Paso Sun Bowl, and that's it. And okay, that's fine. But, if you're trying to treat the Sun Bowl as a big time game outside of the New Year's Day games and the New Year's Six, if you will, if you're trying to treat it as such, then why not go all out? And it seems that since Kellogg's, through Frosted Flakes and the Tony Tiger mascot, have taken over, they have seemingly put more effort into going all out, to presenting the Sun Bowl as a prestigious game outside of the New Year's Day games, a prestigious pre-New Year's Day game. So I'll give them that. But there are other games prior to it, if not around the same time, and afterwards that don't do that. Now, some of them I can understand because of the situation. Like right now, another game going on ESPN is the Gator Bowl. Now, the Gator Bowl is usually, saved for around New Year's Day. But because of scheduling conflicts and everything, that's not the case. And in this situation, I can understand why they don't want to go all out. I could understand that. I mean, Sunday, Jacksonville's got a home game against Carolina. So the best they can do is just put Tax Slayer Gator Bowl logo, in the middle of the field, and Tax Act, which is the, sponsor of the game, on the 30-yard, 20-yard line on both sides of the field. And leave the Jacksonville name, in the end zones. I can understand if they're just willing to go that far, because it wouldn't be too hard for them to have to, let's say, fill in the end zone with the black color of the Jacksonville Jaguars. It wouldn't be that hard to do. Since that's a home game, it wouldn't be that hard to do, saves them the trouble. And that's fine, that's understandable. But what gets me is we have the Citrus Bowl coming up on Monday. And yesterday, within the same stadium, we had the first ever Pop-Tarts Bowl between Kansas State and North Carolina State. And what's interesting is they presented that as a big deal because it's a new bowl. It's the first time that the winning team gets to devour the edible mascot. But what they also did is they went out of the way to really show that it was a big deal. Now, true, they didn't go out of the way like what, the Sun Bowl did for Notre Dame and Oregon State. They didn't do that. Well, they fully just colorized the end zone, and the end zone, says Oregon State. It's got all the colors of Oregon State, and the other end zone has all the colors of Notre Dame and such. They didn't do that, but they went out of the way to make the end zones represent what they look like on the home fields of the schools, or at least kind of have that flavor. NC State on one end, K-State on the other. So they went out of the way to do that. And what's interesting, though, is that they have bowl games. Oh, not bowl game, but they have, a bowl game this Monday, and they got to switch that over to the Citrus Bowl. And they got to put the name of both schools in that game at the on the end zones as well. Whether or not they go all out for them is another story. But what's interesting though is they also had the Cure Bowl. I don't know if they had the Cure Bowl in the same stadium. Let me check. Well, looking at them, I can tell you honestly that for most of them, most of them basically from, the Myrtle Beach Bowl to, like on the 16th, you had the Myrtle Beach Bowl, you had the New Orleans Bowl, you had the Celebration Bowl, I think was one, the New Mexico Bowl, LA, which, all they did was just put Los Angeles in the end zone, and that wasn't much. But again, same reason as to what's going on with the Gator Bowl right now. And Independence Bowl, the Toastery Bowl, same thing. The Frisco Bowl, same thing. The Boca Raton Bowl, same thing. The Gasparilla Bowl, I think they did something, but I'm not really sure. I have to go back and check. The Birmingham Bowl, of course. Camellia Bowl, same thing. Armed Forces Bowl. They do something where they put the names of the school, in the end zone, but it's not in the school colors. They put them, in the end. When they put the names of the schools in the end zone, it's in the red, white, and blue. So that's understandable. The Idaho Potato Bowl, that's another. The 68 Ventures Bowl, well, that's another, of course. Las Vegas, like I mentioned, they put the colors. I think I mentioned this, but yeah, but if I didn't, let me explain again. What they do is they put the colors of the schools in the end zone, but they just leave the words Las Vegas. And then the Hawaii Bowl is another. The ones that did put effort, so far post, Christmas, if you will, has been the Quick Lane Bowl, to where all they did basically was change up the color the Detroit Lions end zones, to the point that all they did was just paint the end zones blue and they put the names of the schools. Kind of similar to the Armed Forces Bowl, but at least they made it look special. Made it look special, but also made it easier for them. Rice and Texas Tech, not Texas, but Rice and Texas State, I should say, is another one in the First Responder Bowl. The Guaranteed Rate Bowl on Tuesday was definitely given a big feel with UNLV in Kansas. The Military Bowl, that's taking place in the home of Navy. That got changed up to look, very presentable for Virginia Tech and Tulane. Same with West Virginia and North Carolina in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. And the same with the Holiday Bowl and USC and Louisville and Oklahoma State and Texas A&M yesterday as well. They did the same as well. They put effort for SMU and Boston College in the Fenway Bowl. They did the same for Rutgers and Miami in the Pinstripe Bowl, I should say, in the Pinstripe Bowl. And in the Pop Tops Bowl, like I mentioned, they did the same for NC State and Kansas State, as well as Arizona and Oklahoma in the Alamo Bowl. They really went all out for them. They really went all out for them post Christmas Day, if you will. That you could see more effort was put in. And like I said, when you look at the Sun Bowl and its history, there have been times to where, like I said, they'll put the logo of the Sun Bowl itself in the middle of the 50-yard line, put the name of the sponsor on the 30 to 20-yard line, and then basically just put, for, I guess, cost saving or whatever, just put Sun Bowl in the end zone, as El Paso Sun Bowl, in the end zone for each team. But now that you have a different sponsor, you can see that more effort is being put in there. Now, like I mentioned, with Jacksonville, I can understand that that's a situation to where they might feel it'll take a little time and be, it'd be basically really just biting the nail to make it presentable for Sunday. So I can understand that. The other game that I'm kind of interested in is the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. Memphis is basically playing a home game against Iowa State. Are they going to go all out and present that as a big-time matchup to where you have Memphis's logo remaining as it is on one side, but then you put Iowa State's logo on the other? Will they do that, or will they just change the end zones to say Liberty Bowl? Because they've been known to do that as well. We'll see. But hopefully it's not a situation like, let's say, the 68 Ventures Bowl with South Alabama. South Alabama, one of the schools to have basically a home game for a bowl game, if you will, on the turf. And they didn't even go out of the way. They put in the middle of the field 68 Ventures Bowl and the sponsor on, the 20 to 30 yard lines and all that. But they didn't even go out of the way to at least change one of the end zones to say Eastern Michigan. Instead they just kept it as South Alabama. What are you going to do? But hopefully we see something change up today. Hopefully we see a change today with the Liberty Bowl. At least some effort, if you will. And then, of course, you got the Cotton Bowl, Missouri and Ohio State. Hopefully we definitely get effort there, because it's like, that's a New Year's Six game. That's the first of the New Year's Six games. Do you really want to just put Cotton Bowl in the middle of the end zones and all that, and be, not middle, but, in the end zones, I should say? Do you really want to do that and make it look less than what it is? You want to make it look presentable. You want to make it look like what it's representing. A big deal with a big-time matchup between Missouri and Ohio State. And, of course, we got other bowl games to go tomorrow as well, which is the last Saturday of this month, last Saturday of this year, I should say, as well. So hopefully we'll see a little bit more effort. We will hopefully see a little bit more effort, especially with the New Year's Six games. Because you can't just, be lazy about it and say, oh, we're just going to put stripes down the end zones and that's it. No. You got to go all out. You got to basically make it look presentable. You got to make it look like a big deal. And again, like I said, I understand that sometimes they have to cut costs because, hey, the NFL team that might occupy that stadium has a game the following day or what have you. But you got to go all out. You have to. I mean, here's the thing. The Alamo Dome is the home, college football-wise, of the UTSA Roadrunners, right? They could have easily kept the Roadrunners name in the end zones, right? UTSA in one and Roadrunners in the other, and just put Alamo Bowl logo in the middle, right? No, they went out of the way to say, hey, we're going to make this look presentable. And again, I know it sounds silly, but it's always been an issue with me. Like, if you're going to make these, if you're going to make these sound like they're a big deal, make these out to be a big deal, then you need to put effort. You need to put effort into doing so. You need to basically say, hey, we're going to treat these bowl games as special as we are presenting them. We are going to put effort. And you know what you need to do as well if you're the sponsor? You're the one paying for for this game to happen. You know what you do? You go to the school. Like, let's say with South Alabama, if I was 68 Ventures, or 68 whoever they are, 68 Ventures, if I was them, I would go to the school and I would say, look, you need to at least let us paint one of your end zones under the Eastern Michigan colors. Make it look presentable. Do that. Same with Boise State. I mean, in the past, they were willing to do that. What happened? When they were the Humanitarian Bowl, they were willing to do that. What happened? That's what really gets me. It's like, you allowed it in the past. What happened? Now all you're doing, basically the furthest you're going to go is put the famous Idaho Potato Bowl logo in the middle, the sponsor on the, like I said, on the 20, 30-yard lines, and that's it. That's all you're going to do. That's all you're going to do, and it's just going to leave Boise State and Broncos in the end zones. What happened to going to talking to the school as the sponsors and saying, hey, we need to change this up? I mean, don't you think, in a way, Georgia State and Utah State would have felt a little bit more appreciative of being there? I mean, not saying they were. They were happy to be there. But do you not think they would have felt more appreciative if they saw their own school names and colors in the end zones to make you feel like it's a big deal? I'm just saying. The point is, again, like I said, as silly as this may sound, what every bowl game starting next year needs to do, because you're going into a 12-team playoff scenario. We don't know what the losers of the first round games are going to get, whether they're going to get into bowl games or not. We're not really sure. But we do know we're still going to get 41 bowl games. I'm sure they've worked out how they're going to make this occur and take off, and hopefully, it's done in a way that will not interfere. Maybe very similar to what we see with the NCAA FCS tournament, to where you have regular tournament games around the end of the season, maybe on the same day as Army Navy. I'm just saying. Now that will be interesting too, because if one of them gets into like the top 12, what do you do there? That's going to be the question. But anyway, point that I'm getting at, next year things are going to expand, and they're going to expand in a big way. So if I'm all these bowl games, if I'm all these sponsors of these bowl games, I go out of my way and I tell each and every one of those stadiums that we need to make these games feel special. We need to put effort in our presentation. And when I mean effort, they need to tell them that, hey, even if your team is playing on their home turf like South Alabama did a week ago or so, and the same with Memphis today as I'm recording this, or as you're listening to this, they need to tell them, look, we need to paint one of those end zones in the colors of the opposition. That way it feels more special. It doesn't feel like it's basically a home game for one team and that's it. You know, because if that's the case, that bowl game might as well not exist, if you know what I mean. Might as well not exist, if you know what I mean. So if I'm these sponsors, and I'm the people that run these bowl games, I talk to the schools and I say, enough of this BS. Here's an extra 1,000 or whatever bucks you need. We're going to basically make these games look presentable. We're going to make them look like they truly mean something. And we're going to basically shut the mouth of people that feel these are nothing more than exhibition games when they're not. We want to basically make them realize that these are big time moments for the student athletes that take part in it and for the schools. You know, because when I hear people come out, even on ESPN, come out and say, oh yeah, these bowl games are just exhibition, that's BS. That's BS. That's like basically telling a lot of the high school players, seniors, if you will, to get invited at the end of the year to take part in a all-star state bowl game, you know, on the campus of whatever university it's on, so they could show whoever's scouting them, hey, look what you're going to be getting. It's like telling them that's meaningless when it's not, because that's a big-time deal for them. That's like telling any high school team, you know, that's like telling any high school team in any state that if the high school football, you know, adopted the same, I guess you could say, format that the NCAA FBS does, to where even if you don't get into the tournament, the playoff, if you will, you're still going to get rewarded with a bowl game. That's like telling them, oh yeah, that bowl game you're going in is, you know, meaningless. It's exhibition. No. That bowl game for that high school is a reward for having a winning record and basically having a winning record and showing that they are legit and that they have a bright future ahead of them for everybody, for the entire school, as well as the athletes that are coming, that are going to be staying and coming. So I don't get it, honestly, you know, when people say that when they should know better. It just is, again, along with the whole presentation of these bowl games, sometimes it's what really frustrates me. It really makes me frustrated when I see that. It really does. But anyway, I just thought I'd mention that. Again, I know it sounds silly and all that, but come on, you can't disagree on the fact that if you as a fan are going to attend these games in support of your school, in support of your family, you can't tell me that you don't think to yourself when you're sitting in that stand that, man, I wish they could have put more effort into the presentation of this game, because because you can basically say it feels like it's a big deal, but it also feels like it's not. And you want it to feel that way. You want it to feel it that way for you. You want it to feel that way for the family that's playing on the field that you're there to support. You want it to feel big. You want it to feel like it's a big deal for your alumni. For your alumni school. You know what I'm saying? But let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Comment down below. Live chat during the premiere. Like the video. Love to hear from each and every one of you on this. And until then, I'll talk to you later.